The Health Fix podcast teaches you how to take charge of your health naturally by giving you the information you need to elevate your health.
Hello there, health junkies. Welcome to another episode of The Health Fix. I'm your host, Dr. Jannine Krause. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about how to reboot your metabolism that's been frozen with conditioning training. So how do you know if you have a frozen metabolism? Well, if you've been under a lot of stress or had a little bit of traumas that built up to be a big trauma, or you've had some serious stuff go down and all of a sudden, all the workouts, all the dietary changes that you've implemented are not working, this podcast is for you. Because let's put it this way. A lot of folks that are in the fitness industry or that have been fit for most of their life will start to see weight gain once they get stressed out or when they get older, past 40, and be like, okay, that's it. I'm going to cut calories and I'm going to double down on my workouts. And then all they end up finding out is that they're more tired, more exhausted, can't get through the day, and then can't sleep at night. What the heck is going on? Your body's fighting back. It's saying, wait a minute, I don't want to do this. I want to stay in the cave and chill out. So we are going to be talking all about why monitoring heart rate and heart rate variability is key for looking at how you can manage stress, but also manage your workouts. They're connected here. And we're going to talk about how improving your cardiovascular conditioning actually is going to improve your longevity. It's also going to help you to improve just your fitness as a total over time, because you can look completely physically fit, but if your ticker's not doing good, you can't manage stress effectively and your longevity is going to go down. So we'll talk about that. We're also going to talk about how to revive yourself from metabolic freeze should you find yourself in that situation, and pretty much the mechanism of how metabolic freeze hijacks your metabolism and your body as a whole. And I'm going to talk about a little story that happened to me, and I'm going to talk about how to adjust it too and give you a little bit of ideas on some backgrounds on workouts and also where to find folks that can help you with this in particular. So first and foremost, let's talk a little bit about what the heck is conditioning training. It's training of your body to produce and create energy and then move on to utilize it effectively. Athletes use conditioning training to improve their athletic performance. But you yourself, you do not have to be an athlete to improve your everyday performance. Now you might be thinking, well, I don't want to focus on performing every day amazing. My job's not athletic. I'm not doing things that are mobile. I'm sitting at a desk. All the more reason that you need to work on conditioning training. Because you can go pound out hours in the gym and lift weights and have a decent looking body and then start to see things are creeping up, like your belly fat's getting more. Your hips are getting a little wider. The bat wings underneath your arms are hanging out a little bit more. That kind of stuff is actually related back to how well you manage stress, because stress is going to take the hormones for a ride. So if the hormones get out of whack, we've all seen the little pictures of what happens in terms of what imbalance is wrong with your body when your hormones are out of whack. But in this case, I'm going to be talking about how to help your body use conditioning training to improve your everyday ability to adapt to stress and your everyday ability to adapt to your workouts. So research has shown that aerobic fitness is directly related to increased life expectancy. So I had just mentioned longevity. But this is aerobic fitness, not how well you can lift weights, not how strong you are in the gym. You actually have to get that heart pumping a little bit. Because the more that you can get your heart rate up and then control it back down, or keep it in a heart rate zone for a sustained amount of time, so control of your heart rate, the better you can control your heart rate in a stressful situation in life. So conditioning training translates into life training and stress management training. So why not train your body in a way that supports longevity in addition to stress management? And then get the caloric burn bonus on top of it. So what I'm saying here is training yourself to effectively make energy. Because most folks that find themselves in metabolic freeze, so super fatigued, struggling to get through workouts, and then paying for it after the workout because they're super fatigued after the workout, so it just kind of never improves. And then sometimes for folks that really push it to the limits, will have insomnia after workouts. So the idea here is to help your body create energy more effectively so that when you have stressors in life and when you have exercise stressors, you can crush them. You can do really well with them. So it's a concept of thinking about, how can I train my body a little bit better? How can I get it out of metabolic freeze? So many folks who are in metabolic freeze that have pushed themselves to their limits might be thinking right now, there's no way I'm going to have enough energy to even get out of bed some days. And I will agree with you that that's a thought that in your head, that might be a limiting belief, right? I've been there. I see so many former athletes struggling with energy and weight gain, myself included. And this is kind of where I wanted to talk about how I pushed myself into metabolic freeze and what you can do to get out of it. Because a lot of people think that we have to supplement our way out, we have to diet our way out, we have to just keep pushing. Life is not like one workout. When stress builds up, it compounds the effect in your body. Yes, a workout will eventually end. Your life, yes, it will eventually end, but you got, hopefully, a little bit more time. So training yourself to understand how you can make more energy. What do you need to do to help your body effectively make energy? It doesn't work by sitting on the couch. It doesn't work by laying in your bed. So here's my story. When I was in my mid-30s, I was living in Colorado in the mountains in a lovely little town called Breckenridge, and I was surrounded by a lot of really amazing athletes, my husband included. And I thought, okay, I have to compete with these people because, of course, my competitive spirit came out. But at the same time, I was like, everyone up here is like a badass. I got to figure out how I'm going to do this. And so one day I'm out running, and there's a gal in my neighborhood who ran a lot of times. We kind of had the same schedule or something. I'm not really sure. I didn't know her that well. But she had quite a few kids. And she was pregnant. And she, visibly pregnant, smoked by me running. And I was like, oh my God. If this chick's pregnant and can like blow me away running, I got to figure something out. So I was like, all right, I'm going to start training my butt off. But I didn't know anything more than just running training. Those templates you see, the books you see in terms of like, this day you run this many miles, and the next day you run this many miles, and the next day you run this many miles. And so I jumped on that bandwagon. I also was lifting weights at the time, but I was doing the same old kind of weightlifting routine I had done since I was in high school. Bro sets. Back and bis, chest and tris, leg day. You know, I mean, I didn't really challenge myself because I didn't really know what I was doing. So I was just getting in there, doing my 4, rounds, 15 reps, kind of getting it to the hardest amount, but not really challenging my muscles much. Just standard old weightlifting. And then I was running on top of that. And sometimes putting in close to the end of the training, because as you know, my marathons are 26.2 miles, I was getting into some 18 to 20 mile reps. Days, not reps, days. So these things compound over time. And then add work stress. I worked 3 jobs in Colorado because it's what you do to try to keep up with living in the mountains. So I was pushing myself with stress. And then I was added workout stress. And I started to notice that my weight was going up. And I'm like, what the heck? I'm running more than ever. I'm lifting weights. I'm working. So I'm not really like stuffing myself with food during the day because I'm not like making laps back and forth from the kitchen. What the heck is going on? Well, I decided I needed to run faster. And then I did decide to put up some of the weights. I only made myself more tired to the point where I was so exhausted. I was having trouble getting out of bed, functioning, and in general, just not feeling good. Fast forward 6-8 months, of me doing this, running a couple marathons in between, because it's what I was doing. I was trying to train, be a badass, be cool like all the other kids up in the mountains. I was racing mountain bikes, doing fun stuff. But here's the thing. I wasn't getting any healthier. In fact, I was getting more depleted. I was gaining weight still. And really what it was is I was turning my muscle to fat because my body was in breakdown mode. So what is this? It's literally headed towards a fight or flight stress condition where you've pushed yourself beyond what your body can handle. But you keep thinking in your head, wait, no, I can do this. Like, I just need to burn more calories. I just need to work harder. Because that's that athlete mentality that maybe you have within you. Or maybe you're not an athlete and you are just someone who's going, okay, I've tried to work out. I've tried to cut my calories. I'm not losing weight and I'm stressed out in life and I'm just like frozen at the same weight. I just don't feel good. I'm not moving well. My thyroid's tanked. What's going on? So, interestingly, I should mention that my thyroid also did tank when I was pushing myself to the limits. My stress levels had pushed my cortisol up when I first tested it. And when I didn't do anything really about it, and was like, oh, okay, I can take some herbs and my cortisol levels will go down. But I didn't do any stress management with it. I tested again 6 months later and I had flatlined my cortisol. It was not coming out in the morning like it should to wake me up. And it didn't even spike even at all. It was flatlined. So my body had went from having enough cortisol to keep me going and then it hit a wall. And then now not managing stress well at all because cortisol is your hormone that helps you with managing stress. Now, it's what comes out when you need to get away from a bear. But when you can't tell your body what's a bear and what's not, now it has disordered ways of releasing itself. So that's a problem. Now, in addition to that, my thyroid levels, so thyroid stimulating hormone, so from brain to thyroid, that increased. My TSH was around 5.8 or so, which is considered elevated medication status for when you have hypothyroidism. My T4 levels were low. My T3 levels were low. T4 is what comes out of your thyroid. T3 is what it gets converted to. So I wasn't converting well, none of that. I did not have any antibodies to my thyroid, so I didn't end up with Hashimoto's, which is a autoimmune type of thyroid condition, which I've been finding about 90 or so, and I think the research kind of supports that. About 90% of folks that have hypothyroidism will end up with Hashimoto's, an autoimmune version of it. So at this point, I was like, oh no, okay, I've crashed my thyroid, messed with my adrenal glands, and now what do I do? Well, I realized I had to start working on my stress management. I had to work on chilling out. What I didn't know at that time, and I do now know, is that I should have been working on conditioning training for my heart, really working on the cardiovascular process of what happens when you get a stress that comes to you, or that you're responding to a stressor that may be your own stress, or the workout stress. No one in my high school training with all my swimming ever taught me about cardiovascular conditioning. I did hear it quite a bit when I was listening to my husband talk a lot about his mountain bike training and whatnot. But no one ever taught me, no one ever said anything. It's not commonplace to learn how to help your body manage heart rate. I kind of thought managing heart rate meant once my heart rate went up, I should probably hold my breath and see if I could get my heart rate back down. I didn't know. And breathing has been something that I've struggled with my entire life with workouts and with breathing sequences with swimming. It was something that was kind of hard for me to figure out. And my coaches in high school really didn't have a great solution. So now I'm like, okay, conditioning training, where have you been all my life? So this is the whole reason I wanted to talk to you guys about this. And if you have young athletes at home, you got to tell them about conditioning training. So how did I learn about conditioning training? I learned through a guy named Joel Jamieson. His website is 8weeksout.com. He is a trainer of combat folks. So MMA, boxing, things of that nature. And he discovered conditioning training worked really well with these folks and has been training folks ever since. So I'll have his stuff in my podcast notes at drjkrauseND.com. I also went on to get a certification from him called Bioforce Conditioning Training. There are a lot of folks that have this certificate and can help you, and you can find them all over the States, maybe even internationally. I'm not 100% sure there, but you can go to Joel's website at 8weeksout.com and check it out. So how the heck does metabolic freeze happen? Like I mentioned with my story, you're stressed out state. You're working 3 jobs, you've got life stress, you've got universe stress, you've got your own stress that you put on yourself. For me, it was beating myself up about my weight, beating myself up about not being good enough, not being smart enough. I mean, it's been a theme, right? So thinking about what is your stressors? What are they? What's contributing to the state that you're in? Then you add on multiple workouts, 2-a-days, and then cutting your calories. Now you're giving more stress. So this is a stressed out, metabolic freeze is a stressed out state that can happen from trauma, so PTSD stuff too. And it just compounds until your body starts to divert energy storage to just stay alive. And it's going to break down muscle. So you can try to put on muscle, but it's going to break it down. So you're going to end up with more fat. And this is where I see a lot of people in the gym, they're putting in all the effort, but the fat percentage just keeps going up. We got to work with diet, got to work with whole foods. But we also have to work with energy production within the body. So at freeze mode, there's no anabolic, so building up of anything happening. Everything's breaking down because your body thinks that it is on some random island in the middle of nowhere starving because of all the stressors that it's gone through. Now, HRV, heart rate variability, this is how well your body manages energy. HRV is thrown around a lot now these days with all of the different devices like the Whoop or Morpheus, or pretty much there's quite a few companies that have heart rate variability management systems. Apple Watch has a thing that can tell you about how your heart rate variability is doing. The Oura Ring overnight looks at it, and it tells you how well your body manages energy. That's what heart rate variability is. It's telling you how your body's allocating energy throughout itself, where the energy goes. It talks about where, or not talks about, but it shows you where's the energy going, how much of it do you have left, what is happening. And your goal with training, with conditioning training, is to help your body better distribute energy. So you can get out of bed, feel energetic all day long, even through workouts, make it through workouts, push yourself a little bit through workouts, and actually feel good. We want a higher HRV score. The higher the HRV score, the more it prevents injuries and drives you to repair your tissue. Like I'd mentioned probably 500 times already in this podcast, heart rate variability correlates with life expectancy, longevity. The better of a score you have in your heart rate variability, the more you're going to live. Long, healthy life, hopefully. But it does help with longevity. Now, cognitive function, insulin sensitivity. This is a big one. When you're in metabolic freeze, a lot of folks will have trouble with insulin. And so insulin resistance is a big deal. Body fat, especially visceral fat in the abdomen. Inflammatory markers are a big deal when your heart rate variability scores are low, when your body's not allocating energy effectively. Your athletic performance is going to be down. You're not going to feel energetic. You're not going to be putting weights up like you want to. You're not going to be running the distances or sprinting the distance or whatever your sport is that you used to do. The cool part about heart rate variability is one of the things we can improve over age and over time. So you can improve how your heart responds to stressors over time. And the goal here is to really train your heart, your conditioning, your cardiovascular conditioning to increase your heart rate variability at rest. So meaning you have a high score of heart rate variability when you're at rest, you're chilling. And if it goes low because you're stressed out, you can bring it right back up. Because a high score of heart rate variability means you can get into parasympathetic chill mode. The higher your heart rate variability score is, the better you can get into chill mode, which is a good thing. Most of us suck at getting into chill modes. That's why we're stressed out. That's why we're getting fat. And that's why we're stuck in metabolic freeze. So one of the cool things about this is that it doesn't take anything super complicated. It's just varying how you work out and not putting yourself into a red line state on your heart rate all the time. With conditioning training, what you're doing is you're improving the functional capacity of your heart. You're improving the blood flow to your heart. You're improving the mitochondria amount. So these are little factories that are in almost all of your cells. Your muscles in your heart is a muscle. You want your muscles of your body and the muscle of your heart to have more mitochondria. Because the more you have, the more energy you can make. And so utilizing conditioning training and creating different volumes of training, intensities of workouts, and working out 4 to 6 days a week. That's your end goal. I know for a lot of people who are in metabolic freeze, you're thinking, oh my God, I can't even get through 1 day. How could I get through 4 or even 6 with time? And if you have a sport or you have a hobby or you have something that your body likes moving in a certain way, you can tailor conditioning training to this. You like to walk? Great. Let's condition your heart to walk like a champ. You like to row? There you go. You like to bike? You can switch this to whatever you enjoy. You like to ski? All right. So the idea here, I think for a lot of people, we have hobbies that we like, but we don't do them as much as we used to because we're so tired or we don't have the stamina to do it. All right. Well, pick something you miss. Maybe you love to ski. Let's condition you up to ski. Golf can even have conditioning training. I don't know how many people have told me over the years, like, hey, doc, I like to walk around the golf course because it's good exercise, but I'm getting tired and some of the hills are complicated, so I started taking the cart more. Let's walk more. Let's do this. So thinking about what your hobby or sport is and how can we tailor this to it. There are folks out there who are conditioning training specialists who can do this for you. But I want to plant that seed for you so that you realize, oh, wait, maybe I could, get back to running. I don't know how many, if I had $1 for all the times that patients came into my office saying, doc, I used to be a runner and now I can't do it anymore. I just don't have the energy. I don't have the time. I don't feel good running. Let's get you back to that. Let's figure out how we can do that. And conditioning training is one of the ways to work on that. So let's talk a little bit geeky here, maybe, about how you're going to have all day energy and crush a workout and master the concept of conditioning training. And really, to have good conditioning training, you have to master the concept of something called dynamic energy control. It's managing the energy expenditures you have throughout the day, so you're only tapping into that highest force and output on demand. Meaning, you train yourself to tap into energy on demand and keep things chill the rest of the day. Because when you want to tap into your energy sources, your stores, your capacity to make energy, you can't spend your life doing it day in, day out all day. Right? Because if you're running, and if you listen to my previous podcasts, I'll say when you're stressed out, you're running marathons all day long. Your body doesn't know the difference between your regular day and the fact that you actually ran a marathon. It doesn't know. So this is where you need to learn effectively how to conserve your energy. And by that, I'm meaning watching your heart rate throughout the day, working on breathing, working on postures, working on slowing down and taking breaks, so that you conserve your energy for when you do want to do your workouts, when you need the most power. Or for when you want to do a podcast or something like that. So thinking about these things in terms of, what do I want to save my energy up for? Do I want to save it up for playing with my kids when I get home from work? Great. Do I want to save it up for taking a run? These are the things to think about. And the way we have to put it into perspective is when you've pushed yourself to the limits and you're in metabolic freeze where your metabolism's not moving, you're super tired and you're fatigued, you have to conserve your energy and you have to conserve it in terms of priority. And first and foremost, you have to look at your day and find out, where are your stress triggers? What's stressing you out? What's zapping or sucking the life out of you in terms of your energy? When you can identify those, you can work on your heart rate around that time frame. So cardiovascularly training yourself to get through work, cardiovascularly training yourself to get through stressors, maintaining a good heart rate. Because a lot of people will get stressed out and boom, that heart rate goes up, the blood pressure goes up, and it's all over. You've just expended everything because of that stressor. So we need to start working on making your days more predictable to minimize stress. Scheduling, routines, hammering down what you do when. And if you get stressed out about something, you have a plan. If this happens, then I do this. If I get stressed out, then I go lay down and do some parasympathetic breathing so I can get my heart rate down. And then I keep breathing like that to get my heart rate to stay 10, 15 points above my baseline. Breathing is a big deal. Mindset's a big deal too. These are huge things that will drain your energy expenditure. It will drain you. Your mind, your thoughts in your head can literally drain you. So I find it absolutely key for you, first and foremost, to know what your baseline heart rate is. That's your heart rate before you even get out of bed in the morning. Then taking that baseline heart rate and paying attention to it when you get stressed out. Paying attention to it when you walk. Paying attention to it when you work out. Just getting some general data before you dive into some conditioning training. These are huge things to be looking at. You want to know how much energy expenditure that you have going on at any given time. What drains you the most is key. Because if you can work to do some parasympathetic breathing, so laying down on your back with your knees bent, with your legs on a chair, 5 minutes, breathing down to 10 points above your baseline heart rate, and then working after you get up to keep that heart rate down, this is going to help you from blowing yourself out, meaning from using all your energy. Energy management is key. Controlling what your pace and power throughout the day is huge. Thinking about your day like you are running a marathon is important. You wouldn't just bust out of the gates in a marathon and push it as fast as you could for the first 10 miles, would you? Okay, maybe I would because I got excited about things. But I've learned since then not to do that. But if you're that type of person that's like out of the gates, you're going to go 0 to 60 and you're just going to push it as hard as you can, step back a minute. Most people who end up with metabolic freeze are doers and overachievers and type A folks, and they get really mad about not getting results. I'm one of them. I totally understand. But here's the thing, we got to slow down a little bit. The reason we got to where we are today is because of our built-in wiring to push, do, and be like, I got this, I can figure this out. Got to get back to energy management. All day long, managing your energy. What can you do to keep yourself in a chill state? Take breaks. Go for walks. Watch your heart rate. Work on breathing. And really, how well you breathe really is key here, because you can mess with your blood pH if you're not breathing effectively. You could keep yourself in fight or flight mode. You're also going to reduce your blood flow to your brain. You're going to reduce oxygen to your cells. You're going to keep your body inflamed. Calcium and magnesium is not going to be getting to your muscles so that they can control contraction. You're going to have all kinds of mobility issues, all kinds of stuff. Even rib cage issues will happen when someone is not breathing effectively. So these are all things to think about. Your like rib cage angle should be at like a 90. In like this though, and a 90. And if it's more narrow, then we need to help you working on how to exhale, because you're exhaling too forcefully. If it's wider than a 90, then we're talking about folks who need to work on more forceful exhale. So crazy detailed stuff. I wanted to throw that in there just for some fun, but look at your rib cage angle. So this is your inferior rib cage going up to your sternum, your xiphoid process, which is at the end of your sternum. See if your rib cage angle is a 90 or if it's like narrower than a 90 or wider than a 90. If it's wider than a 90, you want to have more of a forceful exhale. If it's narrow, more narrow than a 90-degree angle, then you want to work on controlled exhalation. Some fun stuff here. There's a lot to breathing, and really just starting to pay attention to how you breathe. Do you breathe through your neck? Do you breathe through your low back? Can you feel your breath all the way down your spine? These are big things to think about. And those of you who are struggling to get through workouts and fatiguing quick, pay attention to your breathing when you work out. Do you sacrifice form for speed? I know it's super popular to do HIIT workouts right now because they, guarantee 1,000 calorie burn. But if you're doing things super fast and you're not paying attention to how you breathe, you are going to wear yourself out. Why? Because you're not getting oxygen to your brain, into your muscles, and to where things need to be. And if you're doing it throughout the day before you do the workout, it just compounds. We gotta be thinking about these things in terms of effective energy management and creation. You need oxygen to create energy. You need to work with this stuff. So how do you do it is what you might be thinking right now. You want to breathe. You want to be working on that. You also want to work on mobility, making sure that all of your joints move well. Because if something's hung up, you can't breathe well either. So this is a big one for folks who are desk jockeys. Your thoracic, so your upper back and your neck, those guys can be super tight and stuck. Working on things like the chirp to open up and get into extension a little bit more. Breathing exercises that help you to move your shoulders, so scapular movement. These are some of the key words to check out. I will put some links to certain folks that I really like that have some great breathing and mobility work for you. That's step one. Breathe, move, mobility. Get everything moving before you even start a workout. Because if you go into a workout and something's not moving well and you're not breathing well, you're going to have some trouble making energy to get through that workout. So this is why going to a gym that folks can cue you to help you with breathing and help you with form is key. If you are not going somewhere right now that no one's helping you with form, it's time to work on it. Or it's at least time to videotape yourself doing things so you can see what your form looks like. Now, what does conditioning training look like? Well, it varies, right? It varies based on the day. So instead of just going into the gym like I was doing and just banging out some reps, I like folks to consider the idea of switching the weightlifting to tempo lifts. So 2 seconds to lift and 2 seconds back down. So slowing it down a little bit and resting in between about 40 to 60 seconds and doing 4 to 6 sets of 10 or so reps. So switching it up a little bit. Cardiac output on another day, meaning instead of just running just to run to get your mileage in, pay attention to what your heart rate's doing and see if you can keep your heart rate between 130 and 150 for 30 to 60 minutes. Now, of course, don't jump out of the gate and do 60 minutes. Start with 30, start with even 10 or 15. Start with 5 and see if you can control your heart rate in that 130 to 150 range. Tempo intervals are another fun thing to do. You can do these on machines, whether it's a row machine, a ski erg, a bike, treadmill. 70% of your max heart rate. If you don't know what your max heart rate is, you can look at different charts. You can Google it to see what would be for your age range. Typically 165 to 170 for folks over 40 and in this range would be ideal, especially with my folks who are metabolically frozen. I don't like folks getting much over 165, to be honest, in terms of my help with folks. And tempo intervals, what it is you go as fast as you can to the 70% heart rate max for 10 to 12 seconds. And then you take 60 seconds or longer to breathe your heart rate down to 10 to 15 points above the baseline. For some people, that could take 5 minutes, and that's okay, because we're training the cardiovascular system to be able to come down off of a stressor, which is speeding up, which leads me back to why HIIT workouts mess with people. We don't bring ourselves down after these HIIT workouts. We just go on to the next thing. Your body stays stressed, the cortisol stays pumping, you stay insulin resistant, and you keep gaining weight. That's what happens with HIIT workouts. So this is why looking at things like tempo lifts, cardiac output, tempo intervals can help you to switch up your training routine, but also work to train your heart to manage stress more effectively, manage the stress of a workout. Managing stress of workouts translates into managing stress of life. You're training yourself for life and workouts. This is a good thing. Now, after all that, you can do cool downs. Now, I'm not saying doing the tempo lifts, the cardiac output, and the tempo intervals all on the same day. I'm talking different days here. So for those of you who are like, oh, I'm losing you, don't worry. I will have it all listed at drjkrausend.com under this podcast show notes. So you'll have a nice little guide there. Now, cool downs will be 3 to 5 minutes of just some light cardio walking to just rest, to get yourself, not rest, but to get yourself cooled down. And then we'll go into parasympathetic breathing for 5 minutes to breathe the heart rate down around 5-10 points above your baseline. So a program for beginners, in which I think anybody who's starting with conditioning should do a beginner's program. You want to start with a stimulation kind of day. This is a day where you'll walk 30 minutes, 60 as you build up over time. And this is where you want to watch that heart rate to keep it within 130 to 150 beats per minute. Now, a lot of you might be thinking to yourself, usually when I walk, my heart rate's only like 110, 120. Okay, so you have to challenge yourself a little bit here. But the key here with this challenge is you're keeping your heart rate between 130 and 150. So you're maintaining that level of expenditure over 30 minutes, maybe 15 we start with. I highly recommend starting, honestly, goal would be 30 to 60 minutes, starting 10, 15, see how you do. And of course, before you go walking, you got to do a warm-up. You got to get mobilized. You got to move your thoracic cavity. If you aren't moving your thoracic cavity, meaning like do some extensions over a foam roll or over a stability ball, get that opened up. Get your shoulders moving before you start walking. Get your hips moving. Maybe foam roll your hip flexors. Do a 90-90 stretch, which is working on opening up the hips. If you can get that going before you walk, huge. Because a lot of folks, the biggest issue I see with walking is folks aren't breathing well while walking. So this is why I challenge my metabolic freeze folks to do a walk where you're watching your breath and you're challenging yourself enough to get into the 130, 150 heart rate range, but don't let it go over. Don't let it drop down low. For 10 minutes even, just start there. Now, the next day, you're going to be working on decreasing soreness, because to stay within 130, 150, it's a little bit of a push. And you might be thinking like, Doc, you're going to wear me out. You might be for the first couple of weeks as your body's adjusting, because you're teaching yourself how to work out effectively so that over the long run, once your heart is good and strong, now you can do more things physically and you can manage stress more effectively in life. So it's awesome. It's a win-win. So that next day, after the stimulation day, you're going to work on decreasing that soreness. And it's about 30 minutes total, and you might do a slow bike, you might do a slow walk, something that you use your whole body with, but slower. We're keeping that heart rate around 120 or below, so slow. The next day, we'll take off. And then the next day, day 4, we're going to be doing the bike, the row, the walk at 70% of max. And so we're going to be using that to help you. This is tempo intervals to help you feel that speed up, slow down concept. The idea here is you have 3 days. So you have your stimulation day, you have your recovery day, you have a day off. And then the next you do a stimulation day, recovery day, day off. And with the stimulation days, you're going to change what you do. You're going to do a day where you do a tempo lift. You're going to do a day where you do a cardiac output day, which is you have a sustained level of time where you're going to sustain a heart rate. And then you have your last day where you're going to be doing your tempo intervals. So these are all things that are easily done. You could get it in within 30 minutes. You could get it in within 15. It just depends on how your workout is set up. So if you're thinking like, oh my gosh, Doc, I don't know if I could do this myself, don't worry. There are coaches out there that are BioForce conditioning certified trained. And you can head over to 8weeksout.com, which is Joel Jamieson's website. He's got all kinds of resources there. You can join his email list and learn all about conditioning training. He's a wealth of information. I highly recommend checking out his website. He's got courses, all kinds of stuff. So if you are a coach or you're in the health and fitness industry, this is something you want to know about, especially if you work with folks who are chronically fatigued and struggling to make enough energy to get through workouts. Key information here. What we covered in today's podcast is really all about how to help you make energy effectively, what to do to get your body out of metabolic freeze when you've put yourself there because of excessive stressors in life, trauma, etc., and really using your heart rate to manage your stress levels. Looking at, okay, I'm stressed out, my heart rate went up. Great, let's get you to take a break. Let's get you to breathe. Let's get you to maybe even do a little bit of a mini walk workout around the block just to kind of speed up and maybe slow down the heart rate a little bit to get you chill. These are really important things to be thinking about as you move forward in trying to get yourself some more energy so that you can crush workouts. Now, the other big thing here we talked about is how stress compounds to hijack your body and put you into metabolic freeze. And then the biggest thing that I really want you to take out of this podcast is that you can do something about it. You don't have to sit there and watch your weight keep going up and watch your thyroid keep tanking and not know how to get your cortisol levels out of the gutter. Herbs can help, but if you don't deal with how your body manages stress, it's going to be an uphill battle. So if you're listening to this right now and you're like, Doc, I have no idea how I'm going to even get out of bed in the morning, I want you to think about challenging yourself to 5 minutes of doing what I talked about today. Maybe you get your heart rate up to 130 to 150 for 5 minutes, and then you breathe it back down to your baseline heart rate. Great, start there. Maybe you are into lifting weights, and you can do the tempo intervals where it's 2 seconds to lift and then 2 seconds to bring the weight back down. Maybe you do that. And you watch your heart rate there and see how you do with that. Or maybe you work on doing the 70% max, like I said, some of those intervals where you're getting your heart rate up for 10 to 12 seconds, and then that 60 seconds you're breathing your heart rate down to 10 to 15 points above your baseline heart rate. This is big stuff here that can really help you, because if you think about it, we have multiple stressors during the day that's going to push our heart rate up. The difference between someone who isn't completely fatigued and worn out and can manage stress is being able to breathe that heart rate down and sustain it at a good 10 to 15 points above baseline for the day. That's the difference between your body thinking it's running a marathon and not. It's the difference between wearing you out day in, day out and not. So really working on this can be extremely helpful for you. And it's free, just requires a little bit of paying attention, and it does work a lot more effectively than all the herbs and things out there. Yes, I'm a fan of herbs for recovery and helping the body, but I think that getting back to basics in your rhythm of how your body works is even more valuable. So if you take away nothing from this podcast except that your heart rate and your cardiovascular conditioning helps you with longevity, I want you to think about that. And those of you who are like, I need to try this, I need to get going. All right, great. Find out what your baseline heart rate is. Start paying attention to what your heart rate does each morning. What are those levels? What is it when you wake up? Before you even get out of bed, what is your heart rate? Take a week's data and get your average. Then it's a jumping point from there for you to watch what's happening throughout the day. Journal what your stressors are. See how high your heart rate goes up. Really, when things get your blood boiling, pay attention, write it down. These are huge factors. And then translate it to the gym. Translate it to your fitness. Whatever your hobbies are with sports, translate it to that. Play with it. See what works for you. And if you need added help, there are plenty of conditioning coaches out there. Search one out. test them on what information I brought up here. Look at 8weeksout.com and really put it all together for yourself so that you can use your activity and your fitness to help you to manage stress effectively. All right, everybody, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this material. Please give me a comment. Let me know what you think, what you'd like to hear more about. I'm here to help. You guys go out and have a great day, whatever you're doing, and check out the podcast notes at drjkrausend.com, where you can get all of the information that I spewed out today on this podcast.
Hey, health junkies, I hope you enjoyed my podcast. If you want to continue the conversation based on what topic I'm talking about at any given time on the Health Fix podcast, head over to my Facebook group, Find Your Health Fix. It's where we are talking about what's going on in health, what I'm talking about in the podcast, and I love to answer questions there. So come hang out and join the conversation. And by the way, right now I have a free Manage Your Stress Naturally course that you can grab on my website at drjkrausend.com, because so many people are stressed out right now, and really it has to do with the basics, your routines and simple habits that are messing you up. So head on over to drjkrausend.com and go check out my free course on managing stress naturally. All right, folks, have a great day, whatever you're doing.
Subscribe, rate, and share info.